Hello everyone! Oscars are a little over a week away and it's time for my favorite video that we make every year. Yvette and I drive to our local cinema to watch all the Oscar shorts, animated, the live action, and documentary. And as we know, these categories are some of the trickiest categories to predict, but we're here to help. We're here to give you the guidance you need, and we're gonna provide some key stats along the way.
I love watching the Oscar shorts every year. It's become one of my favorite traditions that we have that we do every year. And I think honestly this year, it's a really great year.
Absolutely. We've been doing this for probably over 10 years almost now.
Yeah.
But this is a good year of short films. So let's just jump right in, starting with, what do you want to do? Animated?
Animated.
All right, we're starting with animated shorts. So we have an eclectic assortment of shorts ranging from childhood insecurities to adulthood insecurities and everything in between. Yvette, kick us off with the first one.
Okay, so the first short is a stop-motion story from Belgium and France. It's called Beautiful Men. It's a dark comedy surrounding three balding brothers who travel to Istanbul for hair transplants. Akin to the tone of a Charlie Kaufman film like Anomalisa, with a story I could see Alexander Payne directing. Beautiful Men takes place mostly in drab-looking hotel rooms and bathrooms, highlighting these brothers' insecurities and loneliness. The animation is incredibly detailed, and overall, as much as I enjoyed this film, in its tone and style, it felt more like a proof of concept for a feature film that could really benefit from possibly fleshing out these characters a bit more and their relationships to each other.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the animation was insanely good. You can actually see this being a live action film very easily. I just wish the film's main point of oh, you can fix the hair, but you can't fix what's in here. I wish that kind of came across a little cleaner. But I liked it. The second film is called The Shadow of Cypress. It's an Iranian 2D, mostly hand-drawn, animated film following a damaged former captain with PTSD who lives a secluded life with his daughter. With shades of warm tones, this short portrays the traumatic effects of war through use of abstract animated sequences. This story cleverly uses a beach whale and the daughter's desperate attempt to keep it alive as a metaphor for the insurmountable care needed from her, but struggling to provide. Told entirely without dialogue, there's an emotional arc here with a poetic ending. I did wish the ending, though, packed more of a punch, but overall I did enjoy this one.
Yeah, some rather difficult subject matter that I don't know everyone will be able to connect with comfortably, but very beautiful, important, and well animated. Our next quirky short took 4 years to make and comes from Japan. It's called Magic Candies. It follows a lonely kid named Ding Dong who eats magic candies that give him the ability to converse with objects, animals, and the deceased. Visually stunning and unique, it features stop-motion characters set in very realistic looking environments. The imaginative story surrounding a child's imagination and learning to overcome social anxiety has a Hayao Miyazaki feel mixed with Pixar, and it brings its own unique style. I don't know if the themes came together as clearly as they could for me, and I didn't feel like it really packed an emotional punch per se, but I really enjoyed it. Very whimsical and very beautiful.
I personally really enjoyed it. I liked how sweet it was, but not overly sweet, which is exactly how I like my candies. So the next short is a co-production between 4 different countries, and it took 8 years to make. Take that, Magic Candies. This is another stop-motion film with a completely imaginative and outside-the-box premise. Set inside an 80s children's TV show called Wonder to Wonder, the 3 stars are left to their own devices after the show's creator passes on, causing them to create bizarre episodes to entertain their audiences. This film is fantastically weird. It's somehow imaginative and bleak, exploring the topic of isolation and grief. I would say that this is easily my favorite premise of all the shorts, but I wanted to know everything about these miniature people's personalities, but the limited, I feel like, character development just had me wanting more from it. The stop motion animation is impressive nonetheless. It seamlessly blends with live action. If I had to choose one film I would watch as a feature, it would be this one, but I did want more from it.
It was definitely a little weird. but interesting and very well made. I liked it. I did. And finally, our last short is called Yuck from France. This is a coming-of-age tale from the perspective of a group of young little campers that are disgusted at the sight of old people kissing, but also very strangely extra curious about it as well. In 2D animation, Yuck humorously explores the nostalgic and confusing feelings you get as a child while in the presence of your crush. These feelings are shown in the short film as a form of sparkly, glowing pink lips. This amusing and adorable short is likely to slap a smile on your face. One of the reasons is that the voice performances sounded like they're really children and they talk just like how children would interact. The other reason is its universal and relatable themes of carrying shame solely for feeling something that everyone else on the planet feels. It's really light, very cute, and fun.
Yeah. It may not be the most impressive animation from these 5, but it's definitely the most charming.
I really liked the animation for this one. It felt very nostalgic. The music and the visuals felt like a little bit of a throwback to like late 80s, early 90s. So I really liked the feel of it personally.
Okay, so before we make Oscar predictions, I always like to share our own personal rankings of the film. And as always, Yvette and I always write down our rankings after the screening personally, and we don't tell each other to see kind of how we matched up. And we've written them out on these little blackboards here. We have them. And Yvette, are you ready to reveal? First time ever. Here we go. Okay, so what do you got here? You got Yuck at number 1. I had a feeling. She would put Yuck at number 1. In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candies, Wonder to Wonder, and Beautiful Men. Okay.
You have Magic Candies, Yuck.
Yuck was almost number 1 for me. I decided on basically the fact that I like Yuck as a more just in kind of an enjoyment level, but I took in the animation and the technique with it, and I feel like this has a balance of animation and also just kind of enjoyment and poetic. It's got a little bit of everything for me, so that's why I put it number 1.
We have the bottom 2 the same.
Yeah. We both decided that Beautiful Men for some reason. But by the way, these are all great shorts.
Oh, amazing.
They're all good shorts. So I don't actively dislike any of these shorts.
No.
And some of these are through a slight margin.
Yeah.
For you too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but you did agree that Beautiful Man and Wonder Wonder just because there was just you wanted more from it? Yeah, same
I
with
think
me.
so.
Okay, cool. And why number 2 for this one?
I thought it was really, the aesthetic of it, that was really beautiful. And it was very quiet and soothing because it's no dialogue, but also dealt with some very important issues. I thought it was really pretty the way it looked.
Okay, well, that's just our opinion. I also like to speak to people who went to the screening as well to get a little pulse on what they thought, and also people who are a little closer to the Oscar voting age. And here's what they had to say. Did you have a favorite one?
I like the first
I
one.
liked the kiss one.
The Yuck?
I mean, the kiss was super cute, but I like the first one.
The Magic Candies?
Magic Candies.
Oh, Magic Candies.
about
okay.
you?
Yeah.
Generally, the vibe I got from audiences was split. Yuck, on a pure enjoyment level, I think along with Magic Candies, was a favorite. I felt like people were intrigued by Wonder to Wonder, like it sparked curiosity, but I would say most were puzzled by it at the same time. So it's kind of more like, what was that type of a reaction for that
I saw a few people reacting that way. So what are you predicting?
Okay, well, the stat I love to bring out every single year, because every single year it still rings true, but the stat is since 2010, every winner in this category, every winner, every year has been a film that's either in English or nearly all dialogue free. And every year we think that stat's going to break, it really doesn't. So shorts that feature a cute animal at the center of the story also helps. So this year, there's really only 2 films that fit that criteria, and that's The Valley of the Cypress, which is dialogue free, and the other is Wonder to Wonder, which is in English.
Yeah, personally, I felt like I walked out of there knowing who the winner was going to be, just because of the way the audience was reacting while watching this short film. They were very engaged, laughing. I mean, I know the stat you have is incredibly strong, but...
Well, Yvette and I have narrowed it down to 3. We think it's between Yuck, that's what you were thinking, right? I think Wonder to Wonder is not something to disregard. Obviously, it's in English. And then maybe I'll throw Magic Candies as a possibility. So the advantage is Yuck is an absolute crowd pleaser. It features children, which aside from animals is a very popular subject that often wins in this category, but it goes against the non-English stat, and the animation, I in my opinion, doesn't blow our minds like the others. And Magic Candies is also charming, but it's also non-English. So maybe a little less charming than Yuck, but the animation is very impressive, so it's a nice middle ground. And Wonder to Wonder, that just won the BAFTA animated short the other night, which very recently, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, that won there and then went on to repeat at the Oscars. It's also in an English language, but the disadvantage is that it's really out there.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. If they can't wrap their brains around the substance, I don't think they're going to be able to really fully wrap their brains around this. I don't know. I've made up my mind. I'm just not even going to think about it. I'm going with Yuck because it was the one that had the most audience engagement. Everyone seemed to be laughing. And
even knowing that English films or no dialogue films always win this category, like every time, you still want to go with Yuck?
Yeah, I'm going to go the easy route and just not think about it. I'm going to go based off the audience reaction because they were having fun. I think more often than not, those English language films that you're talking about probably have a more broad appeal.
Yeah,
normally.
They do usually.
And I'm just going to go based off how the audience was reacting, audience vibes. It reminded me of the Yoko Ono one.
Last year?
Yeah, I feel like people were really engaging with it and enjoying it. There was like a boost of energy while it was playing. So I'm not going to think about it.
I mean, your instincts worked for you last year. So I think we've eliminated Magic Candies at the very least because Yuck is likely more crowd pleasing. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I know Wonder to Wonder is the only film in English, and it is technically impressive, but I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to, going from War is Over from last year to Wonder, I think is a bridge too far. I think so. I think going from that to that in 1 year, I don't know if I can see that happening. And as much as Yuck would be an outlier, being a French film, Wonder to Wonder would be a little bit of an outlier as well because it's so much stranger than the other English language films. So it would kind of need to be a windshield wiper type of winner to win here. So I'm just going to go with Yvette, and I'm going to take her advice. I'm going to take her instincts, and I'm just going to go with Yuck because she seems so confident. It's radiating. And with Wonder to Wonder, I think being the spoiler.
Yeah, but don't blame me if it's wrong. It's not my fault.
I will never do that. All right, well, let's move on to the live action shorts.
Out of all the shorts this year, this block of live action was incredible. It was my favorite. Typically, I'd say there's at least like one weak film in the bunch, but this year I think they're all really, really, really good. Spectacular, don't you think?
I think so, yeah.
If I had to come up with a theme that applies to these films in this block, I'd say that many are surrounding dehumanization, the morality of man, and just very challenging dilemmas. Dark, dramatic, I think all very serious topics.
Yeah.
The first short comes from the United States. It's called, I thought Alien, but I guess it's pronounced Alien. This intense short paints a very harrowing and relevant scenario following a Latino immigrant who's been a resident in America for years now, who rushes in to get his green card interview at the Homeland Security office with his white wife and their daughter. This film implements a lot of handheld camera work, and it's very heart-racing and heartbreaking as ICE raids the office, causing panic. Alien does not overstay its welcome, and there's no doubt this is a very topical subject right now.
Yeah, I agree. I like the simplicity of this. I could have used a bit more setup to really kind of resonate. Kind of feels like a very powerful PSA than kind of a strong piece of storytelling. Ultimately, it's simple, but it is effective. The next film is a heartwarming Netflix film from India called Anuja. It tells the story of a gifted 9-year-old girl who works in a sweatshop with her older sister. When the young girl is offered an opportunity, she faces the dilemma of a better life or saving her sister's job. Handsomely shot and produced, Anuja is a bit predictable and cutesy. However, the leading characters give the film a lot of charm, and the locations showcase the streets of India, provide a lot of atmosphere. Also points out that the young actress in the film is based on many real working street children in New Delhi. So this film is definitely the most heartwarming of the bunch. And yeah, that's about what I'll say about it.
Yeah, it's very, very sweet. Our next short is a comedic Black Mirror-esque type of story. It's a Dutch film called I'm Not a Robot, and it follows a music producer who starts to suspect she may be a robot when she can't properly pass a CAPTCHA test. So incredibly relatable to anyone who's ever struggled with passing a I'm Not a Robot test. You'd think this funny premise would run out of gas. However, this dark comedy slowly evolves into this interesting exploration of autonomy and free will. It's nicely shot, centers around a great performance, and displays a subtle futuristic version where robots coexist with humans. There's underlying feminist themes throughout, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy this one too. And it offers great contrast, I think, to some of the other more heavier films in this block, like our next short. This is a near 30-minute short from South Africa called The Last Ranger. This short follows a young girl, Letha, who is caught in the crosshairs between poachers and a female ranger who has dedicated her life to protect the park's endangered rhinos. This short does take a few minutes to get going, and the filmmaking isn't always the most elegant. However, this short was undeniably very rattling, very upsetting, intentionally so, and highlights the cruelness of man in a senseless pursuit, as well as highlights the heroes who put their lives on the line to protect endangered animals. It was pretty devastating, this one.
And the main performance as the center of this film is incredible.
Yes, I was almost convinced they told this little girl what was happening was real, because this was the most emotionally raw performance I probably have ever seen by a child actor, probably ever in my life. Absolutely ripped out my soul.
I mean, I was crying because she was crying so realistically. Yeah. It was an amazing performance by this young lady. Our final short comes from Croatia, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. This was the winner of a Palme d'Or award and is based on a true account that happened during the Bosnian War. A train is stopped by armed militants who demand ID and to know their family's patron saint. Incredibly well shot, which uses a lot of really gripping, lengthy shots. This short creates dread while exploring the moral complexity of remaining silent. Featuring a sort of red herring, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent is very authentic in every way and speaks to a universal and relevant truth that really resonates.
I totally agree. I think this was really sophisticatedly made, really tastefully done. If it was a feature, I could see this being like an international feature film winner at the Academy Award. It feels that elegant. It's really upsetting as well in the most honest and subtle ways. So first, we're gonna go ahead and reveal our favorites in order from most favorite to least. And again, we haven't shared with each other what we thought. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and reveal to each other for our first time our favorites. Oh, we had the same favorite. That's good. Okay, so you like Anuja a lot. And by the way, all of these for me were really, really close.
This is the hardest
Yeah, this is really hard
to rank because
I liked all of them.
All so good.
But yeah, we both have The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. Why for that one for you?
It's just so expertly made. I think there was just like not a single thing missing.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot, directed, acted, everything.
Yeah.
Suspense. It was just I'm gonna keep track of that filmmaker because
That's what I felt. Out of all these films, I felt like, oh, that's a real filmmaker, man. But who is this person? And then I have I'm Not a Robot 2. You put that last.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah, I think I liked it. I think it's just it ends a little abruptly for me.
Okay. And what was your love about Anuja?
I just thought it was so adorable. It was just so freaking cute. The little kids, they had like the footage of them at the end, and
A lot of adorable children in this block, I will say. So we're a little bit at a disadvantage because we didn't get a chance to talk to audiences for this film, but we're going in a little blind on what we think people will just like. So Yvette, who do you think is going to win this?
I think Alien's gonna win this.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very relevant issue right now, and I think because it speaks to such current issues here in America. I think it's going to be like number one on people's minds.
Yeah, I agree. I think the spoiler might be, based on our own results, I think the spoiler might be The Man Who Cannot Remain Silent, because there's a lot of similar themes too.
Yeah, relevant themes surrounding authoritarianism, and the filmmaking is so top notch.
Yes. And I will say Alien is a much more simpler movie in terms of its theme, but it's much more obvious and directly kind of relevant to today. It's so easy to get it. And the film is also in English. So the stat I like to bring up every year, since 2010, there's only been 2 times a non-English film won over an English film. And both times, I think the film was just so overwhelmingly better than the English language films available. So that's when it happens. And there's definitely an English language bias in the animation and the live action categories. So this year, only one film fits that criteria of being in English, and that's Alien. And that's a film that both of us, I feel, has a very strong chance of winning.
It's just so relevant to what's going on in our country right now that I think it's gonna win.
And the spoiler would be The Man Who Cannot Remain Silent. I would say the spoiler.
Yeah, just because it's undeniably just like perfect.
Yeah, and also the Academy has been becoming a little bit more refined in taste. So because it's so exquisitely crafted, maybe that does take it. And I'm Not a Robot, I don't think that would completely floor me winning, because I think it has a fun title, has a fun premise. But like you mentioned, an Alien, it just really fits the criteria of a usual winner. So yeah, I'm going to go with Alien as well.
Does your stat or criteria, does that apply to live action? Because we do have a short where there's a child and an animal, and it's like partially in English. That's the one, The Last Ranger.
Right. No, well, not so much in this category, to believe it or not. Since 2010, the 2 times a non-English film has been an English language film, there were children in that film. So you may be onto something there, because The Last Ranger does have a child and an animal. It's very devastating, but this category does sadly favor the English language film almost without fail, especially if that English language film is either heartwarming or about an important subject matter. And The Last Ranger does feature a lot of English, actually, but I just don't know if this issue is going to be on the top of the priority stack in voters' minds.
So you're going with Alien?
I'm going with Alien. All right, well, let's move on to our next final batch of films, the best documentary shorts. All right, moving on to the last block, the documentary shorts. Now, I wouldn't say there's a common theme amongst all these films, but most are either surrounding violence in America or music. So Yvette, kick us off with the first short.
Starting with our first doc short, Instruments from a Beating Heart. This is from Japan and documents first graders in a Tokyo public schools orchestra. It captures childhood anxiety leading up to the performance of Ode to Joy, which the kids have been rigorously preparing for. This film, you could say, really explores the themes of whiplash and its line of dialogue. There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job. This film mostly centers on one subject, a little girl picked to play the cymbal. I felt like I was watching myself on screen a lot because I had so much anxiety as a child and I just related to her so much. Instruments from a Beating Heart is bittersweet. Goals and improvements are made, but it's often difficult to watch the children truly fearful of being chastised. I personally loved it because I related to it a lot. I don't know if American audiences will connect to it because in this day and age we are a lot more careful about our children's mental health and, possibly causing long-lasting imprints on children. Culturally, it's just very different. Yeah. I connected to it a lot personally. I found it very intriguing, but it may be difficult to watch for some parents especially.
Yeah, I agree. I felt that the documentary intentionally presents that question, though, without outwardly saying it. The question of, is this abuse or is it character building? And I did find it hard to watch at times, but in other parts, I found it quite lovely and charming, which is kind of disarming. So I thought it was really thought-provoking in a good way. So the second short is a US short called I Am Ready, Warden. It surrounds an inmate sitting on death row for murder he committed years ago, capturing his last few days leading up to his execution. There's 2 shorts in this block that involves the death penalty, and this one I think has more of a curiosity to take in the entire picture in ways that I found really refreshing. I Am Ready, Warden questions if closure can ever truly be found for the victim and whether you could truly ever be redeemed for taking a life. The death penalty is still very much a hot button issue in this country, and I appreciated this well-produced short for not blatantly kind of framing the film to suit an agenda, but kind of exploring all sides in order for the audience to come to their own conclusions. So I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I thought it was very nuanced in its approach and what it was trying to say. The next short is called The Only Girl in the Orchestra, about the first female musician in the New York Philharmonic. Her name is Orrin O'Brien, a double bassist who's been conducted by Leonard Bernstein and is now entering retirement after having an acclaimed career. O'Brien herself doesn't necessarily love being in front of the camera, but her humbleness and strong desire not to stand out but blend seamlessly with the orchestra is what makes her really lovable as a subject and a really great musician. Produced by Netflix, Only Girl in the Orchestra covers quite a bit of ground in its 35-minute runtime and was a very sweet highlight made by her admiring niece and ultimately a great display of female empowerment.
The fourth short surrounds the grim subject of school shootings. Death by Numbers follows Samantha Fuentes, who deals with questions of hate and injustice as she prepares to confront her would-be killer that shot her years ago. Using narrations from Samantha's journal, director Kim A. Schneider provides impactful insight to the trauma tragedy victims have to live with. Death by Numbers, however, only scratches the surface on the root cause of why there's an increase of mass shootings in America. It's naturally heartbreaking, but I did feel it lacked a true curiosity that I got from, let's say, I Am Ready, Warden, that could have really shed some light and really added, I think, more insight on this relevant issue. However, it does lead to a very empowering moment where the main subject reclaims her power back from the killer that nearly took her life. That movie kind of builds that moment. I think that was a really strong point in the movie.
The last short is called Incident, and it's entirely told through a series of surveillance and police body cam footage. It's a true crime reconstruction taking you through the moments before a fatal shooting of a black barber by a Chicago police officer. By use of text and footage alone, this short will infuriate you as we watch the police scramble around with their focus set on clearly justifying the shooting and protecting the thin blue line, all while a body lies in the street. Incident is an incredibly well-assembled film using split screens to show the increasingly angry bystanders echoing our own anger. Incident is unfortunately an all too familiar story that we hear here in America, and it sort of acts as a plea for more transparency, more police de-escalation training, and more conversations around how to avoid incidents like this from happening again in the future.
Yeah, it was a very, very powerful short film. But overall, I thought this was a very solid block of documentary shorts. A lot of heavy ones, but there wasn't a complete dud in this block, in my opinion. So are you ready to reveal our order? Mm-hmm. Okay, we've already written them down. Let's reveal. I'm actually very excited to see this one for her. Here we go. I was so curious whether we were going to save last one. That's so funny. Okay. Oh. Instruments from a Beating Heart is number 1 for you. Incident is both our number 2. Only Girl in the Orchestra. Yeah, I mean, they're so close for me. And then I Am Ready, Warden. I knew I liked that more than you, I could tell. Okay, so why was Instruments from a Beating Heart your favorite?
I think just personal, because it was just, I was crying my eyes out. I think it was just I related to it on a personal level.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked I'm Ready Warden. I just felt it was really thought-provoking, especially in comparison to Death by Numbers. There's a similar theme surrounding the death penalty, and I just thought this one, I don't want to say it had more empathy, I guess, ultimately. Incident, I was just the most glued to that one.
It was suspenseful and it was infuriating.
Yeah, it just does
just
everything at once.
Really rises a lot of emotion out of you, and it really captivates you.
And then Instruments of Beating Heart, I agree with you. I thought it was interesting, and I think it might be a little misunderstood probably when people watch it, but I really enjoyed that one. And then Only Girl in the Orchestra, I enjoyed it too. I thought it was really cute. I don't really have much to say other than I like the subject. Death by Numbers. Why didn't that work for you?
I think personally it just got a little like clinical. It got a little like when it too much into the court stuff, and I guess I wanted to feel more than I did.
Right. I think it's just ultimately like, as much as such an important subject, a lot of this movie is about the trauma they live with, and trust me, I can imagine the trauma they live with. So I just feel like I didn't really get a lot from it that I might have not already known. So it wasn't like, I guess, truly like mind altering.
Well, those are our favorites. Ryan, what are you thinking for the Oscar?
It's a very tricky category. I'm really bouncing between two right now, and that's The Only Girl in the Orchestra and Death by Numbers.
Yeah, those are the two that I'm trying to decide between as well.
Oh no. The other three, Incident, I think it was very effective. I felt myself the most engaged with it, but again, it's all reliant on surveillance footage, so I think that's a challenge. I Am Ready Warden. That was my personal favorite, but it asked the audience to have an open mind about a convicted murderer and the debate of the death penalty, which I think is still a very touchy subject. I think it kind of hurts it. And then we have Instruments of a Beating Heart. I thought it was fascinating. It felt very girl state, but it doesn't necessarily feel very important. And the winners are usually very important or very heartwarming, and this one kind of sits in the middle. So that leaves The Girl in the Orchestra and Death by Numbers.
Which are complete opposites,
Very
actually,
much so.
when you really think about it. Girl in the Orchestra kind of fits recent winners like the Queen of Basketball in the sense that it surrounds a woman who is extraordinary in her field. And Death by Numbers would be like your White Helmets, very important subject matter. This category, I think, could go either way.
So we did speak to people after this screening, and generally people liked them all. I Am Ready Warden, I think, wasn't on the top of people's minds. It wasn't really hardly mentioned. There wasn't a clear favorite, though, but this is what they had to say. Did you just get out of the documentary one?
Yes,
Oh, yeah? Did you have a favorite in there?
they were all good.
They were all good? If you had to pick a favorite, like if you had to vote for one.
The last one.
The last one? Okay, thank you so much.
Do you have a favorite in this one, in this block?
It's hard.
I like the last one.
I just can't shoot
It's
with
really
the
powerful.
Do you have a favorite?
Death by Numbers, my reasoning for this one is that of the three criminal justice oriented ones, I think this one wraps its themes around the best.
So watching the shorts, Women in the Orchestra was actually like my first instinct, to be honest. She's a pioneer in their field. There's mentions of Leonard Bernstein. She's the daughter of classic movie star George O'Brien. So there's like a lot in here that would perk Academy members' ears up. But the only thing is the subject, Orrin O'Brien, she really prevents the film from being the heartstring pulling type of winner that we typically see. And I think it's better for it. But a lot of the film really just kind of follows her around her New York everyday life instead of kind of hyper focusing on her being the only girl in the orchestra.
Yeah, it doesn't really show much of her struggles
Yeah.
in getting to where she is with being the only girl in the orchestra. She seems pretty adamant that she's lived a really great life and feels privileged to have been given the opportunities that she
Right.
has. And because there's not really that sense of, having to really persevere or overcome anything, mostly because the subject is so humble, it becomes a little inaccessible to everyday viewers, unfortunately. So I'm leaning towards Death by Numbers.
Yeah. I mean, being accessible to everyday viewers, I don't know if that's a huge requirement for the Academy Awards. So looking at last year, you'd see like The Last Repair Shop, a short film about playing instruments, like that won over an important issue film like The ABCs of Book Banning. So you may say, well, that favors their only girl in the orchestra. But The Last Repair Shop was so winning and emotional, and there's an issue. of what music can do for underprivileged children that was attached to the film.
I mean, I bawled my eyes out in that film. I think you did as well.
Well, I was going to die with that secret, but me bawling my eyes out is out there now. Also, with Only Girl, there's no issue, I feel like, attached to the movie. And though Death by Numbers wasn't my favorite of the block, I mean, it was my least favorite of the block, I still liked it. It's no ABC's of book banning, though. It's much, I think it's a much better documentary than that one was. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say that our least favorite of the block, Death by Numbers, wins. Yeah.
With a spoiler being The Only Girl in the Orchestra, because I think that one's very close second.
I do think so as well. So, okay, great. Well, those are our predictions in all the Oscar categories. I have a feeling that we got 2 out of 3. Something about animated short doesn't feel right with me with Yuck. Something about it.
It's because of your stat. It's a strong stat.
Yeah. I can feel one way very strongly, but then when I see a sexy stat that is just kind of walks by that's been so tried and true to me, it's so hard to let it go. It's so hard.
Been a loyal stat.
It's been a loyal stat. But let me know in the comment section below, am I making the right decision? Who are you predicting for Oscar shorts? And make sure to subscribe because I may change my mind. I may change my mind in this category before Oscar evening, so check out my final Oscar predictions video coming up.
Also, tell us what your favorite shorts were if you saw them. One of our favorite parts of watching these shorts is actually talking to people in the lobby about the shorts, so consider the comment section the lobby of the movie theater.
Also, we saw I'm Still Here.
We did.
So we're going to be reviewing that. That video will come out tomorrow. So follow us on Instagram or Twitter, links in the bio. Thanks always for watching. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you at the Oscars.